Hello and welcome back to the channel and the Film Fridays. Yes, we are bringing back an episode of Film Fridays temporarily for this week because the second season of You just came out. Last year I did do a video for the first season, so if you have not seen that, I will have a link up here so you can go check that out, and the rest of the playlist for Film Fridays. Now, I wasn't really planning on talking about season 2 of You because it was just going to be a little bit repetitive until I found out that my fellow deaf pal, Daniel Durant, had a role in the series. That's right, folks, we have deaf representation in the second season of You, and here we are. But before we get into all of that, if you have not yet subscribed, be sure to do so and hit that notification bell so that way you won't miss out on any new episodes of Film Fridays, which will eventually come out in the future, and just videos in general. And if you would like to support this type of work that I do, be sure to pledge on Patreon if you have not. For January promo, each pledge, even a $1 pledge, will get you a postcard with a little handwritten letter from me, so yeah, why not? I have the link down below. So let's talk about why I feel like Love Quinn makes a terrible wife. And it's not just because of the fact that, well, if you've seen the season, then you know why Love would just make a terrible wife. But there's one thing in particular. She's just an ableist piece of shit. Obviously, there are many and worse things wrong with her, but to try to avoid the really big spoilers, we're just gonna stick with this. So, as it turns out, before Love meets Joe, Love is a widow, and she was actually married to a man named James, who was played by Daniel Durant. And James is a deaf man, her deaf husband, who only signs. I don't even think Daniel himself uses spoken English as communication ever, from what I've seen and experienced with him. So in real life, Daniel only signs and James only signs. And the good news is, you see James signing, you see ASL representation in the show, and you think that maybe, just maybe, Love is going to sign back to him, because I remember seeing in some clips, because I saw the episode just a little bit later than everybody else, you see that she's signing. Actually, she's simcomming, which, if you don't know, stands for simultaneous communication. Basically, you're trying to use two completely different languages at once, and it never works out really well. And why? Why does Hollywood always do this? Anyway, Love Quinn makes a terrible wife, a very ableist or oddist, if you want to be specific to deaf people, discrimination against deaf people, wife, because she just talks to the man. And James somehow has unicorn speech, lip-reading, itis, magical powers that let him understand everything that this woman says, and she also over-enunciates. She talks like this and also screams at him sometimes throughout the series, and oh my god. Also, to backtrack a little bit, ASL gets shown actually in episode 5 before we even actually get to meet James, because Love has Joe do this, the I love you sign, as some sort of like safe word for whatever it is that they're doing. And some people got upset thinking that this was a cultural appropriation moment and that there wasn't going to be any deaf representation. But there was actually a reason that they did that before that we sort of met James. I guess it was kind of like foreshadowing. Is it foreshadowing if anything with James is actually a flashback? I don't really know. But anyways, there was a whole point to that, so don't worry. There was actually going to be deaf representation. But anyway, so when you get these little flashbacks, there isn't a whole lot of James that you get to see. He's signing, there are subtitles, he's not voicing at all, there's no voiceover for him. But every time Love wants to communicate back to him, it's actually just 99% speech. Did I mention that they were married? And she wanted to have a child with him. Now, if they were just dating for the first time, I would understand if she would just be talking or, you know, whatever, because if you've never met a deaf person before and this is your first time communicating or interacting and also dating one, you have to kind of learn the language a little bit. But they've been married. She was wanting to have a child with him, have a family, and she's still just talking to him, and the very, 1% that she signs back to him or signs to him at all, she's simcomming, which why? You end up ruining his own language, and also it's just, he's not going to hear you. Like, what are you doing? And how is he understanding everything with speech reading? Every single word, all the time, especially with the weird way that she's trying to talk to him. It makes no sense to me. And it's not that she doesn't know ASL, the character anyway. Maybe not necessarily the actress herself, but it's not that the character herself doesn't know ASL. Considering how much she understands him, I would say that she is maybe probably almost fluent in it. At least very, very, very conversational, has a very good amount of knowledge with the language. So it's not about the fact that she doesn't know it, it's that she doesn't care to use it, which makes me even more irritated. I'm telling you right now, if I was married to somebody and they wanted to have a child with me and they did not want to use the language that actually really helps me, especially if they know it, and also if they didn't want to bother actually learning it, but in this case she knows the language, there would be no more marriage. There would definitely not be a child involved, because can you imagine if the baby ends up deaf? Like, how are you going to communicate with this child? The same way that 95% of hearing families to a deaf child communicate with them, probably. I'm answering my own question. But it's just, I keep wanting to have a little bit of hope for these types of shows, especially when a deaf actor is involved. And I know it's not Daniel's fault, like, he's going to have very little say into how they do these types of things, but it's still, you take my hope and you break it, you ruin it, you crush it. But let's be real, Love Quinn has so many damn things wrong with her that, am I really surprised? No. But this is also, when you think about it, this is also during a part of the show where you think that she's not how she is, actually. But then again, if she's always been like this, I guess it makes sense, but these people really have to learn from A Quiet Place, man. A Quiet Place has given me so many expectations for other pieces of Hollywood that really I should stop having these expectations and the hope for these things and just stick with A Quiet Place, really. Just, okay. Other than that, I really enjoyed season 2, actually. I'm glad that the way that it ended, well, except the last, 60 seconds, just because I imagined something completely different in my head. I'm glad that the end of the season and the last 2 episodes were different than from the first season, and the characters were a little bit different, because if it was going to be too repetitive, then it was just going to be like, oh, come on. And I'm really glad that they brought Daniel and had their deaf character be played by an actual deaf person, so I give them major props for that. I still just wish that Hollywood would do the language part right and make it make sense. Anyways, Love Quinn is a terrible person and a terrible wife, and obviously she's met her match with Joe, and, well, they both suck. The end. And we'll see what happens with season 3. If you have seen the second season, let me know what you think of it down below. Who do you think the mysterious woman in season 3 is? I know there's 2 theories going on currently. If you'd like to help translate this video, I have a translation link down below. It really helps out. Be sure to share this video, like it. It really helps out with the channel growth. I promise. I love nothing more than when people share the video, especially. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video, and I will see you later.